Hi, everybody. I am here to do your week 4 lecture for social work and human services. So let's get started. Okay, so this week we're doing human rights and social and economic justice, which is a very awkward way to say that we're going to talk about equity and equality. Okay, so what is social justice, just on the very most basic of levels? So it is social justice is about fairness. It's about fairness. Usually, when we refer to it on all the levels beyond the micro level. So it's usually not about one-on-one relationships, that sort of thing. It's usually a little more global than that on every level that is more global than that. But basically, the bottom line is it's about equity and not equality. So what's the difference between equity and equality? So I have a friend. He is 6'9". I am 5'4". The equal thing to do is to, when we take pictures together, is to just like take a picture. And if his head is cut off because they're focused on me, then too bad. But the equitable thing to do in that situation is either to have him sit down or to have me stand on a stool, so that when we have a picture taken, we're both in the frame and it's equal, right? So there's lots of visualizations for this, but I want you to think about equity as being whatever it takes to bring everybody to the same level of opportunity, right? And you can Google this and literally click the images link, and there are lots of really cool visualizations about it. So I would try that if you're struggling with the idea. So social workers in general are committed to the pursuit of social justice. So like you have your individual level work that you do with the individual folks that you're working with, but it's not social work is more global than that. You need to be involved in some level with the greater issues of social justice in our society. Otherwise, you're basically a drop in the ocean. You need to be thinking about how to create systems level change. And if the only way that you go about doing that is by going to the annual days when you go and lobby in Sacramento, then so be it. But you need to at least be aware of what the social issues are and find some way to become involved in them. Otherwise, you become very insular and kind of lose track of what the important social issues are. Okay, so social workers, there are two ways, right, that you promote social justice and social change. Okay, so you do it with clients. That is sort of the individual level that we're talking about. When you're actually doing your face-to-face work with people, and then on behalf of clients. So there's a couple of different ways to interpret that. So you either advocate for them, so that is what that means. But that's also about advocating with other organizations, other social workers, doctors, whatever. But also, like I said, going to lobbying days in Sacramento and advocating for social change on behalf in that sort of like more macro setting. Okay, so basically the bottom line is, the mandate for social justice is in the NASW, preamble. It's a core value of social work. It's not just about the micro level work that we do. We need to work to change the conditions that created a situation that brought an individual into your office in the first place. It's not good enough simply to address that individual. So barriers to social justice. So I added the bold on these. Prejudice is an attitude, right? It's doesn't have to be conscious. I feel like that's really important to remember, is that, we all see this word and it's very triggering because it's like, oh, I don't have any prejudice. I don't have any prejudice. Well, you probably do, like, it's, but it doesn't have to be a conscious attitude, but it is an attitude, right? And discrimination is actions based on that prejudice. So, again, you might think that you don't discriminate. You might think that you don't take actions that treat people differently, but you probably do. And then institutional discrimination is about discrimination that is part of the fabric of the system, right? And we talked about a lot of that last week when you did your discussion post about poverty. Many of you talked about this without really using the term institutional discrimination, but what you were talking about was how the system is structured in a way that keeps folks down, right? It's structured in a way that treats people in an unequal manner and an unequitable manner, right? That continues on to harm individuals and families, and at every kind of level of the system. So listen, again, we all have prejudices. The key is to sort of be aware of your prejudices so that they don't turn into actions, they don't turn into discrimination. And we have to remember that we have a responsibility as social workers to find a way to fight against the institutional discrimination. And spoiler alert, the first way you're going to have to do that is about fighting the institutional discrimination in your own organization. Every organization struggles with this, right? Because even the most well-meaning organizations with the most clear set of goals need to continue to grow and change with society in order to avoid, sort of unintentional institutional discrimination. So it's incumbent upon us as members of those organizations to kind of stay aware and be aware and continue to fight for change, just to keep up. Okay, so these are a bunch of isms, right, that are basically barriers to social justice. We, like I said on the last slide, we've all engaged in this stuff. It's not about so much whether you have or not, although that's not great, right? But it's less about that than it is about kind of know better, do better. It's more about, having learned from your education, from the people around you, from the experiences that you have, from the jobs that you take, what it is that you've participated in hindsight that, like, ooh, that wasn't great. And then taking that learning and applying it to the future. So, when I was, in graduate school, I graduated with my MSW in 2007. That seems like a really long time ago now. And, there were aspects of social work back at that time that, like, are very different now than they were then. And we are required as social workers to move and grow and change, right? With the changes in the field and the changes in society. And, these pitfalls, these racism, sexism, heterosexism, classism, ableism, all of this stuff, all of these pitfalls are things that, in order to continue to avoid and to continue to work against, we have to be really, really aware of how society is changing around us and how our practice needs to change to reflect it. So you have an assignment about implicit bias and privileges. And that is your assignment for this week. And the assignment sort of asks these types of questions. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it right now because this is sort of an individual reflection. It's not a discussion that you participate in on Canvas. It's an assignment. So it's between you and me, right? And it's really important that you think critically about this assignment and that you are as honest with yourself about it as you can be, because you'll get more out of it the more you're able to do that. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for a second.